All right, so today we're really diving deep into something kind of universal, aging. We all get there.
Right.
But this source, Corrected Age Control, by Arnaud van der Veer,
Yeah,
it really makes you think about aging differently.
totally. It flips the script. We usually think of aging as this like
Yeah,
golden years phase, but he's arguing it's like this
right.
continuum,
Yeah.
started way before we even enter the picture.
Before birth.
Yeah, before birth.
I'm trying to picture this tiny little fetus with a walker.
Okay, not quite, but you get the idea.
Okay.
He even links what a mother eats during pregnancy to her child's health later on, like epigenetics. A mom's nutrition can actually switch certain genes on or off.
Wow.
And that can impact things like disease risk way down the line. So those early influences really have a huge effect.
That's way more than just remembering to take your prenatal vitamins.
Right.
So it's more than just wrinkles and gray hair we're talking about here.
Absolutely.
These are like deeper changes.
Yeah, these changes, they happen all throughout our life. Think about your liver.
Okay.
It actually starts shrinking around age 50.
My liver is getting smaller as we speak.
Well, not as we speak, but over time.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's not just the liver.
Okay.
Our bones change how we process food. It's like our whole internal landscape is in constant motion.
So it's really a whole system thing, not just these isolated parts.
Exactly.
It's like that saying, no man is an island. Well, no organ is an island either.
I like that.
Right.
That's a good way to put it. And when you start to see the body as this like interconnected system,
Yeah.
it makes his whole take on the wear and tear theory makes so much more sense.
Yeah.
It's not just about things breaking down, but all these tiny errors
Right.
at a cellular level that build up over time.
So give me an example. How do these tiny errors actually show up?
Imagine our DNA is like a shoelace.
Okay.
Those plastic tips at the ends, those are telomeres.
Okay.
Every time a cell divides, the telomeres get a bit shorter.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, they're so short they can't divide anymore.
Oh.
And that leads to cell death and contributes to aging.
So our cells are like those shoes we wore to death in high school. So
Right.
Eventually, there's nothing left.
Exactly. And like worn out shoes.
Yeah.
Our cells get hit with this thing called oxidative stress.
What is that?
It's like rust accumulating on a car.
Okay.
It's just a natural part of our cells producing energy. But over time, it can really damage things, like our DNA and other cell structures. And that speeds up the aging process.
So it's not just about how many years, it's also about the condition of our internal shoes.
Yeah,
How much rust we've built up.
exactly.
That makes aging feel a little bit more like we have some control over it.
And that's where diet comes into play.
Okay.
Van der Veer goes beyond the usual eat your veggies advice.
Right.
Because he's really looking at how our digestive systems change as we age.
So that double cheeseburger I could handle in my 20s
Right.
might not be my friend anymore.
Exactly. He points out that as we get older,
Yeah.
our bodies sometimes struggle to break down those heavy meals
Okay.
compared to meals with more fruits, vegetables, and whole grains.
Interesting.
Our digestive enzymes change. Our gut microbiome shifts. Yeah. It's a whole ecosystem down there.
It's like our insides are staging a silent rebellion against pizza.
That's a good way to look at it.
But seriously, it makes you wonder if we are all just walking around with outdated dietary advice.
It's definitely something to consider.
Yeah.
And he doesn't stop at diet either.
Oh,
He argues that movement is critical.
okay.
And I don't just mean hitting the gym. He's talking about conscious movement,
Yeah.
understanding our bodies,
Okay.
and challenging our nervous system.
I have to admit, when I first skimmed that section, I was like, yeah, exercise is good for you.
Sure.
But now you've got me intrigued. What does he mean by conscious movement?
Well, he describes this exercise
Yeah.
where you analyze everyday movements like catching something that's falling. It's about retraining that brain-body connection so your nervous system is more efficient.
Interesting.
He calls it Neurex.
Neurex. So what exactly is Neurex? How does that help us age better?
He doesn't get too into the specifics,
Okay.
but it seems to be about being super aware of how we move.
Okay.
When we're younger, we're more fluid, more
Yeah.
instinctual, right?
Yeah.
As we age, we might stiffen up, hesitate a bit.
Yeah.
It's like our brain and body aren't talking as well as they used to.
That's a good point.
A Neurorex seems to be about breaking those patterns,
Oh, interesting.
those little hesitations we develop. By really paying attention to how we move, we can strengthen those neural pathways.
So it's like taking your brain and body back to school.
Exactly.
I like it.
So we're talking about retraining those reflexes.
Yeah.
Sharpening that mind-body connection.
So not just building muscle, but fine-tuning the software.
Exactly.
Fascinating.
And that emphasis on the mind-body connection,
Yeah.
that's key throughout his work. He argues that as we age, staying socially connected
Right.
becomes even more important.
Interesting.
And not just to avoid loneliness,
Yeah.
it actually impacts our physical and mental health.
So grabbing coffee with friends isn't just a fun outing. It's practically a doctor's visit.
You could say that.
Hmm.
Research shows strong social ties can do a lot for brain function,
Wow.
stress reduction, even physical health.
Incredible. So we've got diet, movement, social connection. It's like a recipe for healthy aging.
He's really emphasizing that it's not about some miracle cure.
Right.
It's about understanding these interconnected systems and how they all work together.
And that's where things get really interesting.
All right.
Because Veere, he doesn't shy away from some of the less conventional ideas about aging.
Right.
Did you know he even talks about people aging in comas?
Right.
That's wild. If someone's essentially on pause, how are they still aging?
That's where his discussion of electrical currents in the body comes in.
Okay.
He suggests that these currents are fundamental to aging,
Interesting.
even at a cellular level. He actually calls it the key to life.
Electricity in our bodies. Are you
No.
telling me we're basically walking batteries?
In a way, yes. He talks about how each cell in our body can create these electrical impulses.
Ah,
And those impulses are influenced by things like the electrolytes in our system.
wow.
He even compares it to a car battery.
Okay.
Just like a car needs a properly functioning electrical system.
Right.
Our bodies rely on this balanced flow of electrical currents for optimal health and longevity.
So our bodies are like these crazy complex circuits, and aging is like electrical resistance building up in the wires.
That's a great way to put it.
Right.
Yeah. He talks about how if that flow is disrupted,
Okay.
whether it's from a poor diet, lack of movement, environmental factors, that can really speed up the aging process.
Like anything electrical, if the wiring is messed up, the whole system goes haywire.
Exactly. But the good news is there are ways to maintain that electrical balance.
Really?
And some of them might surprise you.
Okay. I am hooked. Tell me more. Does he give us any advice? Like, how do we keep our internal wiring in tip-top shape?
Well, he actually goes back to conscious movement here.
Okay.
He says that by really looking at our everyday movements, like how we walk, reach for things, even just stand, we can retrain that brain-body connection and our nervous system works better.
So it's like Nerex, but for everyday life?
Exactly. It's about noticing those muscle groups and nerve pathways
Right.
that we use for even the simplest stuff.
Interesting.
He suggests that by being aware of those movements,
Yeah.
it actually optimizes how electricity flows through our bodies.
I swear, Veere is secretly a superhero,
Right.
teaching us how to harness our bioelectricity.
That's pretty wild.
But seriously, it's cool how he connects those small things
yeah,
to bigger things like our health and how long we live.
he's really saying that the little things, the everyday choices,
Right.
they really add up over time.
And speaking of choices,
Yeah.
what about superfoods and supplements?
Oh, he gets into that too.
I was wondering when we'd get there. Because doesn't everyone want to know the secret to eternal youth?
Right.
So is he handing us the fountain of youth in a pill?
Not exactly. He does talk about the good things about certain foods and nutrients
Okay.
and how they can support healthy aging.
Mm-hmm.
But he's big on being skeptical and doing your own research.
So no popping random pills from the grocery store?
He would definitely not recommend that.
Okay.
He says it's really important to look into ingredients,
Yeah.
understand how they work with your body,
Right.
and think about things like your diet, how active you are, other health conditions you might have.
So it's about being your own health advocate,
Exactly.
not just following the latest trends.
Yeah. He even says that some herbs and supplements can actually be bad
Oh, wow.
if you don't take them the right way.
Right.
Or if they clash with other medications you're on. It's all about finding what works for you.
It's like that personalized approach again.
Yeah.
Just like he talked about with movement and our social lives.
Exactly.
But I have to ask, he talks about aging in a coma, which is just mind-blowing.
Right.
But does he ever talk about the more traditional view of aging?
He does.
Okay.
Like what happens to our cells over time.
Yeah.
He even has a whole chapter on cellular senescence.
What is that?
It's basically when cells stop dividing
Huh.
and they kind of enter a retirement phase.
Return for cells? Do they get a 401k too?
Not quite,
Oh, okay.
but it's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
As we get older, more of our cells enter the senescent state.
Mm-hmm.
They're not dead, but they're not as active as they used to be. And they can actually release these molecules that cause inflammation and damage the tissues around them.
So they're like those coworkers who've retired but still hang around the water cooler complaining.
Exactly.
Right?
And just like with those coworkers,
Yeah.
if you have too many senescent cells,
Yeah.
it disrupts the workplace,
Right.
or in this case, our bodies.
Our bodies, right.
They contribute to inflammation, which is linked to a lot of age-related problems.
So how do we deal with these cellular slackers?
Right.
Can we encourage them to clear out their desks?
There's the million-dollar question,
Right.
and it's something scientists are looking into right now.
Really?
They're exploring things like senolytic drugs.
What are those?
These drugs could potentially remove those senescent cells
Okay.
and promote healthier aging.
So we're talking about a cellular spring cleaning.
Exactly.
Out with the old, in with the new.
And Veere seems pretty hopeful about this research.
Yeah.
He sees it as another clue in figuring out how we age and how to age better.
This is all so fascinating, but it's a lot to take in.
Yeah.
Diet, movement, social connection, electrical currents, cellular senescence.
It's a lot.
It's like aging is this giant tapestry with all these threads woven together.
And we haven't even gotten to one of the most interesting and kind of sensitive parts yet.
Oh, what's that?
It's something we all go through but don't really talk about that much.
Okay.
How aging changes the way we look.
Ah, interesting.
And Veere, he tackles it head on.
I was curious how we'd approach that.
Yeah.
It's such a big topic.
It is.
There's so much pressure to look younger and all that.
Right, exactly.
But he seems to be coming at it from a really scientific angle.
Yeah, he connects how we see beauty to those biological signs of health and even fertility.
Interesting.
He says things like skin tone, hair quality, even facial symmetry.
Right.
They can all be clues about someone's age and overall health.
It's like we're programmed to equate certain looks with youth.
Exactly.
With being healthy.
Yeah, and he even suggests that those cultural beauty standards,
Right, which are all different.
right, they vary all over the place.
Yeah.
But he says they often reflect this deeper preference for traits
Okay.
that we associate with good genes, being able to have kids, all that.
Like in those nature documentaries.
Right.
Where the birds with the brightest feathers are the most attractive.
Exactly.
It's like they're saying, hey, look at me, I'm healthy, I'm the best choice. It's all about signaling.
Right.
And Veere says, just like in nature,
Yeah.
these signals of aging, they can affect how we see ourselves and other people.
Yeah.
And that can create pressure and make us feel insecure.
Especially for women.
Oh, absolutely.
There's so much emphasis on staying youthful looking.
He talks about all that, the pressure to fit these beauty standards.
Yeah.
The rise of cosmetic surgery, the mental and emotional effects of feeling like how we look outside doesn't match how we feel inside.
It's like he really gets the emotional side of aging,
Yeah,
especially in a culture that's obsessed with youth.
definitely. But he doesn't leave us hanging there.
Okay, good.
He talks about how important it is to accept ourselves
Right.
and find beauty in every stage of life.
That's so important.
He wants us to focus on feeling good.
Yeah. Physically and mentally, instead of chasing some impossible standard.
It's not about stopping time.
Right.
It's about embracing the journey, right?
Exactly. And finding that confidence and beauty in every chapter.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's what makes this whole thing so interesting.
Yeah.
He's looking at the science of it all.
Yeah.
Our biology, our choices, even how we see ourselves.
It's all connected.
But he never forgets that we're human.
Right.
It's not just about living longer.
It's about living well,
Exactly.
finding meaning and connection.
I love that. He's given us a lot to think about.
He has.
What we eat, how we move our relationships, how we see ourselves.
It's a lot.
I used to kind of dread getting older,
Yeah.
but now I'm actually kind of excited about it.
That's great.
It's like this journey of discovery.
That's the beauty of a deep dive like this.
It is.
We can really explore these big topics, challenge what we think we know,
Right.
and maybe even come out of it with a sense of wonder.
Corrected age control has definitely changed how I look at aging.
That's great to hear.
It's not just something that happens to us.
Right?
It's this whole system of choices and opportunities.
Yeah.
If our bodies are always renewing themselves, if we're not just aging, but actively shaping the process,
It's a powerful way to look at it.
maybe aging isn't the end of the story.
Right.
It's the beginning of a whole new chapter.
I love that thought. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah.
What really resonated with you?
What are you taking away from this conversation?